Students are learning about the purpose of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. This instruction will be broken into 3 different portions over 3 different days. On the first day, they will be conducting research on their amendment, discussing with peers, and completing a KWL. On the second day, students will be creating their own presentation in the form of a PechaKucha. On the final day, students will be presenting their PechaKuchas as well as taking notes during their presentations. Students will be able to display their prior knowledge through the KWL they will be completing on the first day. They will also be able to show their literate identities by being able to present their final product, the PechaKucha, to the class. Not only that, but they will also be able to reflect their identity with a collaboration portion on days 1 and 2. In addition to teaching literacy across content areas, our theoretical stance that guides our decisions is the support of student-centered learning. Research conducted by the organization Education Evolving has shown that student-centered learning increases students' problem-solving skills, engagement, memorization, and much more needed skills that support literacy.
Inclusivity is an important aspect of education and should be considered as part of each lesson plan. As we know, education is not a one-size-fits-all approach, so we must consider how to make learning equitable, not equal. Students with disabilities will be accounted for in this lesson through technology supports, explicit instruction, and heterogeneous grouping. Students with weakened receptive language skills can access information via video, readings, and even images. Expressive language skills will be targeted during the PK presentation and may allow for scripting, pre-recording, or adhering to different timeframes. This lesson fosters critical discussion and opens the door for future discussions about race, gender, socioeconomic status, ability, and more within the classroom. Inclusivity is subjective and based off each classroom's needs, so there are just a few examples of what inclusion might look like in the classroom. The primary technology used will be computers with Google Slides or Microsoft PowerPoint software. Other assistive technologies may be used for students with disabilities, such as timers, text-to-speech software, and closed captioning for research purposes. Our lesson plan focuses on one standard and moves the students from learner to teacher. Day 1 will pique their interest and allow students to begin researching their topic within their assigned heterogeneous groupings. By day 3, students will be presenting their amendment and actively listening and note-taking during their peers' presentations. Day 1 will begin with a KWL chart of what students know and want to know about the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Then, students will be assigned a group and an amendment to become experts on. Students will research using a variety of methods such as readings, videos, and political cartoons. The lesson will end with a stop and jot so that students get practice writing about the material. Lastly, students will be assessed using a vocabulary recognition test. On day 2, students will receive explicit modeling of how to create a PechaKucha, including a concrete example from their teacher. As students are working in their groups, the teacher will be circulating the room to provide affirmative and corrective feedback. The lesson will conclude with a turn and talk so that students continue to actively discuss the material. On the final day of learning the standard, students will present their PechaKucha, offering more time to practice discussing the material. When not presenting, students will be active listeners and taking notes on a paper brochure. Including the research days, all aspects of content area literacy will be accounted for during the lesson. The brochure, as well as the completed KWL, will be used to assess learning.
In this curriculum, students will have several opportunities to engage with the content through different means of literacy. Students will be involved in reading, writing, speaking, listening, etc. with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. This is beneficial for students because as they interact with the text and content in new ways, they will create a better understanding of the amendments, and by the end will be masters of at least one. One resource we plan to use in this lesson is the website Ducksters. This website is a kid-friendly database for websites and resources to help students conduct research on their own. Students can type what they're looking for and will be given limited results that will aid students in conducting research for their PechaKucha. By giving students a smaller set of resources, they will be less overwhelmed by choice and can focus on the content, but still have the opportunity to begin research of. Students can use an online PechaKucha maker that automatically progresses to the next slide. This website gives students an option in how long each slide will be so that we can modify the PK to their grade level. Most students have most likely never seen a PK before, so this will be a great resource to give students a template when beginning to create their own. It also has several already made PKs for students to explore if they need to see it modeled for them again. KWLs, which stands for Know, Want to Know, and Learned, are used to support students' learning through reflection, writing, and speaking. This type of graphic organizer promotes a deeper understanding of the content by requiring students to compare different components of their learning process. Students will engage with reading comprehension, writing, reflection, and will have to discuss with other students in the class to complete a KWL. Stop and jot is a strategy that allows students to take a second to process what they are learning. Students get to interact with the content through writing, and teachers can use this as a checkpoint to see where student understanding lies. Turn and talk similarly allows students to process their thoughts on the subject and hear from a partner. They are engaging with the content through speaking and listening. The next strategy used for this lesson is a vocabulary picture matching activity. This strategy has students match vocabulary words to their corresponding pictures. Pictures have been proven to benefit students in word recognition. This activity will serve as a building block to help them when creating their PechaKucha because they begin working on connecting text to visuals. This presentation is an example of a modified PechaKucha. This PechaKucha strategy requires students to create a presentation using images that automatically change at a set interval while the speaker discusses the specified topic. This project requires them to use multiple means of literacy to engage with the content, such as invention, pre-writing, drafting, revision, and editing.
Assessments are important tools for teachers to evaluate whether or not a student has learned content, as well as inform future instruction. Using a variety of formal and informal assessments helps to measure different things. Also, it provides multiple ways for students to share their understandings that does not favor any one type of learner. We will use 2 formal and 2 informal assessments. The first formal assessment is the vocabulary recognition task. Students will complete the graded task, which requires them to identify vocabulary terms that they can read and are related to the unit. Content area vocabulary integrates literacy into social studies and develops students' knowledge domains. We can use this information to focus content instruction on what still needs to be learned and inform future reading instruction. The KWL chart acts as the first informal assessment. After a brief introduction to Reconstruction amendments, students will fill out the first 2 columns and then return to fill out the last column at the end of the unit. This strategy can help students practice good reading skills by activating their background knowledge and setting a purpose for reading when they complete their research. This low-stakes assessment can evaluate initial understanding and inform adjustments for the upcoming lessons. The PechaKucha is the second formal assessment and occurs on the final day. The PK is the cumulative assignment and allows students to be the expert of the content they studied. The PK will use a graded rubric to judge if students included all of the necessary information. Students can collaborate, interact with technology, and be creative to present their learning and develop their writing and speaking skills. The final informal assessment occurs during the PK presentations. Listeners who are not presenting should take notes on the most important points from the presentations. After, students will turn to their shoulder partner to compare and contrast what they wrote and why. This will help students to develop their academic conversation skills while reviewing the material in a low-stakes setting. We can listen to the conversations as well as collect and review the notes at the end of class.
I have learned from my group members in a plethora of ways during this project. I learned how to connect standards with literacy strategies more effectively. Before this project, I had difficulties figuring out how I would incorporate literacy in a meaningful way in social studies. After learning from JC, Hallie, and Aaron, I feel as if I have a better understanding of finding appropriate strategies to teach social studies standards. This has also shifted my initial view of Cal from being a niche existence to a robust and malleable practice. After seeing how literacy can be applied to social studies content, I see firsthand that it is applicable beyond grad work, but with also actual teacher lessons. A future goal that I have is to target students' IEP goals by incorporating more Cal strategies within my math classroom. I now don't have to target math goals exclusively in my class, but rather a range of writing and reading goals with the tools and strategies that I have acquired in this class.
I enjoyed learning more about content area literacies in this class. If it helps me nowhere else, I was able to be more successful in my other classes because I expanded my foundational knowledge of literacy education. I didn't really understand content area literacies at first, but now I have a solid grasp on them and I'm confident my group members will be great literacy teachers. Working with others on this project emphasized for me the importance of collaboration. I will take these lessons with me in the future.
Initially, I thought that literacy just entailed reading and writing, but after taking this class, I realized that it also involves all the 21st century literacy skills like reading, writing, speaking, and listening. I was also intimidated on how to incorporate literacy into my Georgia Studies classroom, but my peers taught me different ideas, such as Hallie's idea circles, Aaron's raft, and Tommy really showed me that you can implement literacy within any classroom, like in his math classroom with an inquiry-based lesson. They also showed me that all of these ideas can be adapted and modified to meet ability and age level. A lot of times I see cool activities and I want to implement them, but I'm worried that it won't work for a middle school special education classroom. But now I realize how we can take these ideas, twist them around a little bit, and make them fit any learner profile.
By designing a collaborative CAL curriculum, our group has gotten the opportunity to see what it's like to work as a team toward a common goal. As a group, we have learned how to strategically include literacy opportunities for students in ways we may not have considered on our own. I plan to use what I have learned about partnering with teachers and CAL to include as many forms of literacy as possible in my future classroom.